Good morning, folks. Take a look at this view. This is what I wake up to. This is Miami, Florida. Oh, I want to go to the beach bad, but today is the final day of the Seminole Hard Rock Tournament Series, so I'm going to make the most of it. Going to put in quite a long session today. We're going to play some 5-10. There are two tournaments running. They're no limit today. One's a $600 one that starts at 8 p.m. I want to go to bed. And the other one is a $10,000 that started an hour ago at noon, which is way too big for me anyway. So we're going to head over. Last night there were 4, 5, 10 games running, so let's head on down to the casino. We are playing 5, 10, 25 in for $2,500. And in the first interesting hand, we pick up King Queen off on the hijack. Bump things up to $50. We get 2 callers before the straddler. Now bumps it on up to $250. That's a pretty reasonable price, and a hand like King Queen plays very well at these low stack to pot ratios, so I toss in the call, looking to flop a top pair and just go with it. Small blind also makes a call. We go 3 ways to a flop of ace, 5, 3, all clubs. Small blind now checks it, and now the original raiser fires out an all-in wager of $955. I think if he has any bluffs, or maybe a hand like pocket jacks in his range, then this is just a slam dunk call. And even if he has an ace, we are still like 35, 37%, so it's close enough. I toss in the call, small blind gets out the way. We take a turn, it is the 5 of diamonds, river, king of spades. Is it good? It is not. My opponent has the ace queen. We're going to lose our first big pot of the night. Around an hour later, we look down at pocket eights. The big blind has limped, and we decide to bump it up in the straddle to 100. My opponent tosses in the call. We take a flop of 9, 7, 6, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. Opponent checks it over. We could bet around like half pot here, or just check. This time I decide to check with the 8 of hearts. Turn is the 6 of spades. Not my favorite card, but it does mean that if we do hit an 8, our outs are clean. But big blind fires out 75. I think raising's a little bit too thin here, so I just toss in the call. River is the 5 of spades. We do make our straight, and now my opponent checks it over. Definitely going to go for some value. I don't want to go too big on a board like this, so I fire out a bet of 275. Opponent thinks about it for a bit, and then tosses in the call. We are going to get paid that hand. Let's upgrade to pocket aces. We make it $50 under the gun. Folds round, and now a player in the cutoff makes it $250, a very large wager. I'm thinking about it for a bit, and my gut is telling me to just call here and just trap. But we're also a little bit deep here, so I decide to go for the 4-bet, and I bump it on up to $700, a little bit on the small side for me, and my opponent snap folds. Picking up pocket 10s in the cutoff, I raise things up to $50, and we get a lot of callers. We are going 4 ways to this flop, in position though, of 8, 5, 3 with 2 clubs. Pretty good. We got an overpair, but it's quite a connected flop. But now the straddle leads out for half pot $100. And versus this size, I think we're going to have to raise. This really feels like a top pair type hand. So I bump it on up to $350. Small blind and big blind get out the way, and under the gun makes the call. Head to the turn, looking for a good one. It is the 4 of hearts. Pretty good. 6, 7 does get there, and there are quite a few 2-pair combinations that come with a 4, but we're just going to have to go with it. My opponent checks it over. And if he does have top pair, I don't think he's folding, so I don't mind an overbet here just to try and get it in, just versus this opponent specifically. So I do go ahead and decide to move all in for 1,300. We get a pretty quick call. Hence the river, it is the 6 of hearts, not what you want to see. My opponent says 6, so that sounds pretty good to me. I roll it over, and he actually has a jack 8 of diamonds. I think he was just asking what the river was, but he did scare me a little bit. But we are going to take down that pot. So you can tell how tight this 5-10 game is, because we are once again playing a big blind versus straddle spot. You do not see that often in live poker, but big blind now raises it up this time to $85. This is his standard size for big blind versus straddle, and sometimes he does limp, but we're going to toss in the call. We have an ace, head to a flop of 9-4-4, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. My opponent now fires out a bet of $75. Ace high, blind versus blind, this is definitely a call. We're going to be ahead most of the time here, so I toss it in. Turn is the 6 of diamonds. My opponent keeps firing now for $225. It's a pretty sizable bet. We're looking about like 60% here. And our hand is still going to be good most of the time here. He's still got a lot of like jack 10s, queen jacks type hands, as well as quite a few draws on this board. And yeah, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to keep calling down, see what happens on the river. River is the 5 of diamonds, so the backdoor flush does get there, as well as 7-8, maybe deuce 3. But I reckon he's probably limping those hands. My opponent once again fires out a bet of $525 here. And I don't think too much has changed, and I think it's getting a bit thin for a 9 to be betting here. So he's repping a 4, or possibly an overpair. Of course, he can have some backdoor flushes and sets and stuff like that, but his value range is getting quite narrow here. So I decide to look him up here. I toss in the call, and we're up against the king-queen. We are going to take that one down with ace high. That one feels pretty good. Looking down at pocket 2s in the hijack, raise it on up to $50, and only the button makes the call. We're going heads up to this flop of 9-6 deuce. We got bottom set here. Beautiful. Versus the button, he's a very competent player. Any flop that's like 10 high or lower, going to do an extremely high amount of checking. So even sets are going to make it in there. So I toss in the check. My opponent fires out a bet of $75 around half pot. And we're definitely go for the raise here with pocket 2. So I bump it on up to $225. My opponent makes the call. Head to the turn, it is the 5 of clubs. 7-8 does get there. It's a little bit worrying as that's the most obvious straight draw, but still have a set. So I'm going to keep firing out another bet. I should have sized up to around 450, but I'm just terrible at math, so I made it 375. And my opponent makes the call. River is the ace of diamonds, doesn't change anything. And yeah, we're just going to have to go for it here. I don't mind checking over sometimes to let him bluff with a hand like, 10-8 of spades, but I don't really see him bluffing too often, so I go ahead and fire out 1350. Opponent thinks for quite a while, so it looks like he does have some showdown value. Ultimately does decide on a fold. That is unfortunate. Look at this, another big blind versus straddle spot. What a game. Big blind raises it on up to 85. I defend with a king 10 off. We take a flop of jack 9-7 rainbow. I have a very strong open ender here, so my opponent bets $75. I'm going to bump this up right away to $225. Opponent thinks for a bit and then tosses in the call. We're heading to the turn. It is the 9 of hearts. Opponent checks it over, and a lot of our hands improve to full houses here. But I think my opponent's going to have a lot more trips than I will, just because I'm not going to be raising the naked 9 a lot. So it is a card that's going to be quite a bit better for him than it is for me. But we still need a few bluffs here, because we are going to have some full houses. So this hand is going to make it into the mix. I fire out a bet of $550. My opponent doesn't take long, and now check raises to $1,200. Basically a min raise after we went polarized. That really sucks. I think we're just going to have to toss this hand into the muck. Even if he has just like the naked trips, he could have queen 9 or 9-8. So if we make our straight, we're probably just going to run into it. And he could just have a full house already. So the price is so good, and it hurts to fold this, but I think it's the right play. Into the muck you go. This hand is against Lexo, another vlogger. I have ace-8 off on the button, raise it on up to $75. I use a larger sizing on the button. Now he fires in the re-raise up to $325. Folds back to me, and button versus small blind, I'm not the biggest believer ever. This should probably just be folded. But this time I decided to get a little bit spicy with it and put in the 4-bet up to $775. My opponent thinks about it for quite a while and then moves all in. Whoops. We fold, and it's nice enough to take our money and show us that he did have pocket jacks. Just a bit unfortunate. 100 big blind poker is just not my thing. We pick up pocket 9s under the gun, make it at $50 to go. We get the hijack, the cutoff, and the button, and the straddle to toss in the call. So we are going 5 ways to this flop of 10-9-8 rainbow. We do have middle set, but it is a pretty wild board, to be honest. We're going to start off with the check here just because getting raised would really suck, and we are 5 ways, and there's going to be a lot of bad turns for us. Action actually checks all the way around, which is very surprising. We see a really bad turn, the 7 of diamonds, introducing a flush draw, as well as putting one liner to a straight on the board. Just going to check this on over, and now button fires out a bet of 150. Folds back to me, we can't fold just yet, so I toss in the call, and we go heads up to the river, which is the deuce of spades, a huge brick. I check it over once again, my opponent fires out a bet of 400. I think the play is just to fold and not even think about it, but I did want to give it some thought. And he was the button, so everyone checked to him on the flop, and he didn't bet, which is going to eliminate a lot of jacks from his range. He's not going to have ace-jack because that would squeeze pre-flop. He's not going to have pocket jacks because that would also squeeze. So he's got king-jack, queen-jack, and then probably jack-10 and jack-9. And out of all of those, the one that's most likely to check is going to be jack-9 on the flop. And we have 2 9s, which makes me feel quite a bit better about it. I think jack-10, queen-jack, king-jack all want to bet, especially king-jack, because then they can cooler a weaker jack if a queen comes. I don't know. It should probably just be a fold, but having the pocket 9s here makes me feel a little bit better that he didn't check back jack-9 on the flop. So I toss in the call, and all that analysis was for nothing because he just has king-jack. Damn it. We have an under the gun raise to 60. Low jack and hijack have called, and I defend the straddle with ace deuce of hearts. Head to a flop of ace 5-3 rainbow. We have a backdoor flush draw, a gut shot, as well as top pair, so pretty strong hand. I check it over, and action surprisingly checks all the way through. We head to the turn is the 6 of clubs, introducing a backdoor flush draw, but not much else. I check it over once again, and now the original raiser, who is Lexo again, fires out a bet of 150. Hijack makes a call, and so do I. We're heading to the river, it is the 10 of diamonds, so pretty much all the draws bricked. 7, 8, clubs, nothing really got there, any 4. I check it over once again, and he fires out once again for 575. Hijack gets out the way, and now it's back on me. I'm thinking about it for a bit, and he could have quite a few missed draws here, but this also feels quite a bit like a weak ace, like a medium strength ace, like an ace-jack, an ace-9 suited kind of thing that's checking the flop for pot control and now going for some thin value. So I decided to turn my hand into a bluff. It's nice to have the ace because it's going to make it more likely that he does have a missed draw. So I go ahead and raise it on up to $2,000. My 2 blocker's not relevant. He's not raising 2-4 from under the gun, so that doesn't really make a difference. Opponent thinks about it for a little bit, but unfortunately we're just going to run into it here, and he tosses in the call with the pocket 6s for the turn set. That also makes sense. That is unfortunate. In the final hand, the hijack has raised to $75, button has now raised to $250, and I look down at pocket 10s in the big blind. Considering both these raises are from late position, I don't hate a 4-bet here, especially with a hand like pocket 10s that we do want to get in there, and cold calling is just so bad, especially at this stack depth. So I do go ahead and put in the 4-bet up to 700. Straddle gets out the way, hijack folds, and now it's back on the button. It doesn't waste too much time and just moves all in. Our 4-bets are not working out today. That is a fold, and we are done for the night. Alright, folks, that is going to do it for me for episode 87 in the game for $5,000 out. 2,515. That, my friends, is a loss of $2,485. The opposite of what wanted to happen. Wow, look at this building. That thing's going to beam up into the sky. That is great. But anyways, that is going to do it for me. Do the things below. Thank you once again so much for watching, and I'll see you guys shortly. Look at that.